Welcome, everyone, to the White Rabbit Podcast. My name is Matt Kraus, coming to you from Bandurma, Turkey. And your co-host is Alper Rosanes from Barcelona, Spain. And Alper, you had a LinkedIn rant that you wanted to do. And I love LinkedIn rants. We laugh, but seriously, I do love a good LinkedIn rant because God knows, I spend more time ragging on LinkedIn than just about anybody on the planet. So I'm always up for a good LinkedIn rant. So tell me what's on
and
your...
I think LinkedIn is aware of that,
Yeah,
by the way.
I'm sure that LinkedIn cares deeply about what Matt Krause thinks. I'm sure the CEO of LinkedIn lies awake at night thinking, "Oh my God, is Matt Krause going to come after me?
What are we going to do
Yeah,
about Matt
what are we
Krause?
going to do about this
Yeah.
guy?" Okay. So anyway, Alper, so talk to me. What's on your mind these days?
Well, it's not specifically a rant against LinkedIn. Actually, it's not a rant at all, but it's something that I posted on the other day, and you and I had a brief conversation about it, which is my advice to stop and ask a couple of questions, not couple, actually, 4 questions before you even start designing your slides,
Okay.
before you even click PowerPoint,
Yeah.
Keynote, Google Slides, whatever software that
Yeah.
you use, except Prezi. I don't recommend that you use
Okay.
Prezi. And I made that very clear on the post.
I saw that and saw the anti-Prezi comment and thought that, wow, this is a great comment. And I agree and understand where Alper is coming from.
By the way, a side note, after I wrote that article and said the thing about Prezi, I thought, okay, maybe I'm being a bit harsh on them because the last time I checked them out was more than 10 years ago. Let me go onto the website and see what they have been up to.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh my God, 10 seconds on their website, watching one of their presentations, and I'm already nauseated. So
no way.
Not in terms of stomach, in terms of head. I got motion sickness. That's why I had stopped using them almost more than a decade ago.
Before we get to your rant, let's back up a second to our...
It's not a rant, by the way.
Well, before we...
It's not going to be a rant.
Before we move into LinkedIn or whatever you want to move into, let's back up to Prezi for a second. Because what I remember about Prezi, because I also wrote off Prezi about, about 10 years ago. And I hated the way... because I also got motion sickness on just about every Prezi presentation that I saw because there's all this zooming in and then there's this zooming out and then there's this moving over and zooming in again. And is it still like that?
Yes.
Really?
I mean, that's why I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt and visited their website after writing the article, by the way.
Okay.
So I cannot say that the article was impartial, but yes, it's the same. And I'm like, okay, I'll just keep adding your favorite presentation software, except Prezi, to my communication.
Yeah.
So the idea is, like I said, it's not a rant, but it's an advice on asking 4 questions before you even launch the software and dig yourself into what color should I choose, what font should I use, etc., etc. And the reason for asking these questions beforehand is if we are unable to answer them, then it's not going to make much difference if you design the most beautiful presentation, most attractive slides in the world.
Nice
Your
point.
presentation is not going to serve its purpose. That's why I am a huge opponent of this idea.
So these are like 4 foundational questions. Am I hearing you correctly?
I would say so.
Okay.
I would say so. These are 4 foundational questions.
I like it.
To determine what goes onto the slides before you even think about what color they should be or what kind of an appearance the slides should have.
I like it. Go on.
And in previous episodes, we have already talked about like determining the main idea of the presentation. So that's a given. But in this article, I took the idea of the main idea, the core idea, a bit further, and I asked, what conviction do you have as a person driving the main idea? Because I'm not, in this case, talking about your data, the information that you will be sharing, or I'm not even talking about your own agenda for the presentation. I'm talking about something visceral, something inside that you feel about the topic that you will be talking about. Like, why does this idea deserve to exist? A bit philosophical. And of course, why are you the one presenting it? So those are the main two sub questions that I can add to the first main question, which was, what conviction do you have driving the main idea? Because the way I see it, if you do not have a clear answer to these, maybe it's a good opportunity to consider whether you should be delivering the presentation in the first place, or maybe just write an email and send it to the relevant person.
And this is a great question. So could you back up a second and tell us what these people should be asking themselves? Tell us that again.
Well, the first main question was, what conviction do you have driving the main idea of the presentation? This is assuming that you have already come up with the main idea, which I referred to in other episodes.
Okay.
So
interesting.
You already have a main idea. You already believe that this is what you need to talk about.
Okay.
I am inquiring to your mind and your heart, let's say, at the same time, and asking you, what is the conviction that you have? What is that visceral thing that you feel inside for you to say, okay, this is an idea that deserves to exist, and I am the right person to talk about it.
This question, and maybe you'll answer this later, but this question, is this something that you can answer by yourself, sitting around your kitchen table at 11 o'clock at night? Or is this something that you need somebody else's feedback on? Like this question of, what is my conviction? Why am I the one to be presenting this? Is it enough for me? Can I ask and answer this question myself? Or do I got to get my spouse involved, or my boss involved, or my coworkers involved? Do I have to ask them?
That's a very interesting question. And on the top of my head, my answer would be like this. You can solicit feedback to strengthen your position, your inner position, for example. But I think this is something between you and life itself. So I think you should have the first building blocks of this conviction inside of you. Then maybe ask for feedback, ask for ideas, ask for, I don't know, before making the speech or delivering the presentation, ask for support to strengthen it. But I think this is something that you feel on the inside.
Okay. So,
by the way, is this applicable to quarterly results presentations? Being the person I am, I'm going to say yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about it in a future episode. But yes, I think from the everyday mundane to the life-changing or world-moving presentations, I think you would have to have that visceral thing on the inside.
Nice. So even if the presentation is so routine that you've done it a million times before, you still need to ask yourself, why should I be here? What is my conviction for doing this? And why am I the one to do this job? And
yes, and the conviction about the idea.
And if your spouse or your boss, your coworkers or whatever can help you with it, that's great. But you need to feel that conviction inside of yourself before. That's the key. Is okay. It's a nice bonus if others are telling you that, yeah, you're the one to do it, but you need to feel it yourself in your bones. You need to feel this conviction about why you're the one who needs to do this. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think feeling that is very important because it ties directly to the second question, which is, will your listeners actually care about this inner approved idea that you have, inner approved idea that you are presenting? So that's the second question. Will they actually care? Because you might think that whoever you're presenting to, a customer, a manager, I don't know, public, you might think that they will respond to what you're offering. They will listen to you and they will respond to it. But you know why? You know what? There is a gap. And I also mentioned this in the article. Sometimes it's a small gap. sometimes it's a huge gap between what we think matters and what they feel matters.
Ah, interesting. So
it's important to close that gap before taking their time.
Okay, so it's not enough for me to say, hey, this is important. I care, and so should you. So that's not enough. And so I need to understand these other people in the audience well enough to articulate why they care, not just that I care, but why should they care? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, you could be, for all I know, you could be caring so much about the clumpiness of cat litter, but, well, actually, I care about that too. But, but for anyone who has never had a cat, it doesn't mean anything. So it doesn't matter if you are the only one so convicted about the idea. It should also resonate with the audience.
Okay.
And the third question that I mentioned was, okay, you are convicted. You're not convicted. You are convinced. You are Freudian slip, maybe. You are convinced in the idea and you believed that your listeners are actually going to care. And the third question is, how will you know that your presentation is working? I'm not talking about knowing beforehand. I'm talking about knowing during, moment to moment, live during the presentation, not before or not after. So what kind of signs or signals will tell you that they are with you or actually they're losing you?
Okay.
So in this regard, I would encourage you to include maybe a live verification. For example, you can ask rhetorical questions or solicit actual feedback from the audience.
So you're talking about having some sort of live feedback to know whether I'm connecting with my audience or not.
Yes.
And you're saying that I should be thinking about this before I start designing the presentation. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So before I start designing the presentation, I should answer the question during the presentation, when I'm standing up there on stage, how am I going to know whether I'm bombing or not? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
okay.
Because when you consider this, maybe you will include a slide in there with a large question mark and ask a rhetorical question, or actually ask a real question. Or maybe you will include a live poll in your presentation, which can serve signaling you that they are with you, as well as making the presentation more interactive so that you also get feedback. So there are many ways of creating this interaction, and I'm going to call it live verification of audience connection status, let's say. So if you think of that beforehand, then you will look at your presentation and say, okay, at these points, at these junctures, I'm going to include things that will draw the audience feedback to me. So that's why it's important to think about these before you start creating your slides or presentation.
Okay. And then you mentioned that there was a fourth. What was that fourth one?
Yeah. The fourth one, ironically, is usually, as I see, usually skipped because otherwise what I'm going to talk about would not be happening. Imagine you're watching a presentation. You're not the speaker. You're one of the audience members. And another audience member asks a question and the speaker is completely thrown off track. So the fourth question is, where is your soft underbelly?
Where is your soft underbelly? What do you mean by that? Where is your soft underbelly?
So anything in the presentation or your speech that can be scrutinized and end up with you losing credibility. Because all of us, I mean, I also mentioned this in the article, all of us have not the desire, but we can be tempted to just, gloss over or brush over certain things on the slides. Like, I have data, it's not so strong, it's a little weak, but I'm going to just, put it on the side. Or I'm going to make an assumption, but I know that it's shaky at best. So if they come up, and sure they will, it's like the 11th commandment, they shall come. How you handle these inquiries, true story, by the way, it was in the commandments original version.
Yeah.
How you handle inquiries from your listeners, I think, is how you win or lose trust with them. So I think it's important, because unless you prepare to defend your potentially weak points openly, you're going to be in trouble, because most of the time, if not all of the time, the audience will find them and they will ask questions, and you will find yourself or your credibility hanging by a thread.
And so let me ask you a question about this, because in the previous 3, it sounds like I can pretty much do most of those myself. But I'm thinking, as I listen to you describe this one, boy, it sure would be helpful to have an outside perspective on this one, because thinking, I'm, of course, always awesome and always perfect. And so,
of course, the whole world knows that. Yes.
And the whole world knows that. And so no one's ever going to question anything that I ever say. And so, if you ask me, where is my weak spot? I'm going to say, well, of course, there is none. There is no weak spot. But another person will see in like 2 seconds where my weak spot is. And so.
And kick it.
Yeah. And kick it. So it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like this 4th point, which is very similar. What was the underbelly statement that you used? Where is your
soft underbelly?
Yeah, where is your soft underbelly? Or you could also state that as like, what is your presentation's weak point, or where is your weakest point, or something like that, maybe. So
which question is more attractive?
Yeah,
I think soft underbelly.
Yeah, so I think soft underbelly is a better way to put it too. So, am I on the right track here in terms of thinking, well, it's not necessary, but it sure would be preferable and probably, well, certainly valuable to have an outside perspective on this 4th one. Am I right in thinking that?
Yes, you are right.
Okay.
Like you said, it's not mandatory. It's optional, but highly recommended, because if you have weak stuff on the presentation and if they are scrutinized, then unless you're fooling people or trying to scam them, you can refer to the second opinion that you solicited and say, hey, it's not just me. I have another opinion backing this up. But of course, everything is subject to verification.
Okay.
But it's one thing for you to stand alone on the stage saying, yeah, this is my own perspective and this is my own research. Another thing to be able to say, okay, this is what the data shows. I mean, we can debate about it, but at least this is the best outcome that we have been able to achieve based on our findings. It's a completely different story then.
And so, and I have a couple questions for you. Let me back you up a second there, and on this 4th point still, but back up a second on this 4th point. And you mentioned something, I think I heard you mention that if during the presentation, somebody in your audience, let's say, a board member, if you're presenting to a board member, or somebody out in the audience of 1,000, if you're presenting to an audience of 1,000, somebody in your audience, they poke at one of the points in your underbelly, and part of your response is, that's a very good point. And in fact, others have asked me about this. And so blah, blah, blah. Is that what you're saying? So you're kind of bringing this other person into the presentation. Is that what you're talking about in terms of how the tactics and how you would handle it?
Not really, because in that case, I think as a listener, I would be inclined to think, well, if it is weak, and if other people asked about it as well,
okay,
so why on earth are you presenting it? Are you showing it or not defending it? So, yeah, I mean, when you asked about other people, I didn't think of other people raising the same concern, but other people who may back my opinion or my perspective up.
Okay.
So in that regard, yeah, I mean, if I receive a question like that, it means I'm already halfway towards losing credibility. So I need to do something to get it back. Otherwise, I'm dead.
Okay. And so the other question I have for you is not about point number 4. It's about the whole thing in general. So I don't want to cut you off. So are you done with 4 and ready to move on?
These were the 4 questions.
So I have one more question for you about this before we wrap up. And if I remember correctly, because I saw you post about this on LinkedIn. So I saw that LinkedIn post, and if I remember correctly, the LinkedIn post was somehow tied to the book. And you recently released a book with another professor, or a professor at the school that you teach at, or that you lecture at. And
it's his book, which I contributed.
Yeah, so his book, and you had a contributing chapter. And so I was wondering, what is the tie there? Could you tell us what the tie between those two is?
The thing is, the book talks about it's a guide for startup founders.
Okay.
And my chapter is called the winning deck, and talking about what to do in the presentation file that you will be preparing to use in these investor meetings. So this is these 4 not these 4 questions per se, because I just woke up with this idea one day after releasing the book, and came to exist the LinkedIn article.
Okay.
But the main core idea is the same. There are so many things that you need to take into account before you click on the presentation software, because once you do that, you're going to be lost in a sea of choices.
Yeah, true.
And that's why it's very important to answer these questions, to solidify your argument, to back your data or back your ideas before you go into the design process.
And by the way, just as a footnote, as you go into the design process, hopefully not using Prezi, right?
Anything but Prezi. Can we be sued for defamation?
I don't know. But yeah, us, the White Rabbit hating on Prezi. Okay. So, so before we wrap up for the day, so is there anything else that you would like to mention about these 4 points?
No, these are all. But I think no, not that I think. I have a feeling that I'm not just going to let it rest here. I'm going to keep renting on them in the future.
Oh, I am very sure that we will hear about these points before. And actually, we probably have been talking about them before, and I'm sure that we will talk about them again.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
All right. So thank you very much, Alper, and we'll be back to you with the next episode.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.